On you today, okay? This is Allison.
I'm Allison, I'm an addict. And thank God this is an action program and not a feeling program, because just like at the CRC when I was honored to talk about tradition 6 through 12 with Jose G, I feel just as inequipped and unprepared today as I did then. But but this is service, and as long as people don't ask me to do anything before noon on a weekend, it's enough for me to try to do it. So I will do what I can. I'm just another member, no better or worse than anyone else, no better or worse equipped to talk about anything than anyone else. My sponsor is constantly telling me to stretch myself out of my comfort zone. Stretch yourself, stretch yourself. And so I hate being asked to talk about traditions, because my mind says traditions are boring and stupid, and there's only enough to say about the one thing: 7 tradition, put money in the basket, $2 is better than one in this economy. That's a wrap. But my sponsor's voice comes in. It's like, stretch yourself, stretch yourself. And because I was asked to give a lead at a workshop in this, I bought this book. And let's be honest, I like trash fiction. I don't like my favorite recovery speaker said, just working steps and reading literature is like the best antibiotic for what's killing us the most, and we take as little as possible. And if it wasn't for the CRC experience, I wouldn't have gotten this book probably ever, until Wayno asked me to do this, and then I would have bought it. And even then, I just run to the chapter I have to talk on and cram like it's an exam, But what I'm grateful about is just learning to just lead with your body and your mind being forced to follow. It opens me up to really good experiences. This book is amazing. It was not what I expected. I thought it would just be dry and boring, whatever, and what it was. I love how every tradition in this book, they keep hitting the primary purpose. They keep hitting the primary purpose. Everything about NA is carrying the message to the addict that still suffers. And they talk about running area, region, groups, all the point of it, and they keep hitting it. And I need to remember this, because you stay clean for a minute and there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot of defects, there's a lot of crap, and it's easy to lose the main reason why we're here, carrying the message. For me, trying to do service to pay back what could never be repaid. I came to NA through the back door. The bottom had fallen out. My mom was in the other fellowship. She sent me to a Salvation Army to get a vocational rehab. They suggested I go to AA or NA. I went to NA thinking I could still drink, and boom, here I am. I expected nothing, but what I've gotten from this program is I live inside my skin. All the pieces of myself that were fragmented all over the road through working the steps with the sponsor, I'm intact. I have a foundation, and I'm building my life on it. And it's not about being some kind of robot, productive member of society, which is the line I hate worst in the text, because I had never had any interest in that. But I live in my skin today. I love myself today. I came in actively killing myself, and through the steps, through the miracle of this program, I actually love myself today. I could never pay this back. So even when, I'm a ridiculously bad time manager, I'm wildly unrealistic. I'm running around giving people rides, and they're like, I don't think we're going to have enough time. Yeah, we're fine. And the funny thing is, as while I pass this place and I'm reversing to try to find the entrance, this car cuts me off, and it's my mom running late with her spot seats, which is just, I love it. But like I said, even to this day, it's never like, yay, I want to talk about traditions. There's part of me that just resists it, that thinks, why can't you just ask something about me that I just can just blather on about, whatever. But it stretches me, and it works out a weak muscle. And this book does talk about how it's not just stuff you hear at area administrative meetings or group business meetings. It's really the why of it, And with the 7th tradition being fully self-supportive. Let me read it, because even after all this time, I feel like I can't quote how a tradition or a step is quoted right unless it's right in front of me. The seventh tradition, every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And this Guiding Principles book does talk about, I wish they gave juicier details, but I believe them, and they're just, whatever. But they talk about how earlier versions of NA folded because they didn't do this. And as addicts, we're rebellious and we don't like a lot of rules, and there's a lot of personalities, but I do think a lot of these traditions are about just trying to keep our traditions keeping our organization running simply, and people have a hard time with it sometime. Me and some of my network that was driving here in the car were talking about situations where it's difficult, when you're in service and things like crucial NA service bodies like H&I are having a hard time making money, and then this outside contributions, it's like, yeah, that's a good idea, but when we're struggling financially, it's sort of like, well, why can't we do this? It doesn't make any sense to do that. And it can get more gray, especially since addicts like myself don't like following rules, and which is why I do appreciate this book, putting it back, regardless what I feel, other earlier versions of NA before this one folded, because they didn't do this. And this is important to keep the organization viable and simple and streamlined and running. What I also like about this text, what they talk about it, is how we apply this tradition in our own life, and how we apply this tradition doing service as recovering members of Narcotics Anonymous. I know we've all seen people, or maybe experienced it, the road to hell being paved with good intentions. I just talked to an addict in my home group last night. I'm like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm really tired. This person hasn't been showing up to GSR, and I've got these 3 service positions. And I was like, wow, they were just talking about the importance of budgeting your time with the 7th tradition. It's not just about money to keep, literature in your group and this, that, and the other, and to keep your group viable. As addicts, we have to be realistic about what we can do, because doing service, when we're doing too much and we're not budgeting our time and energy well, this is a program of attraction, not promotion, and it's not really attractive when you have burnt out people bitching and seething with resentment. And it's like, dude, I know your intention's good, but also I don't judge, because as addicts, we didn't know anything about limits and boundaries and budget. All bets were off when we were out there, and then we get clean and we think just because we put down the drugs and the booze, it's going to be like this. I heard this one woman say in a meeting, when I got clean, I thought it'd be like a rubber band that just pops back into place, and what I found is there's no elastic. You know what I mean? So we hit both sides to find the middle. So when you see that person lecturing people about not stepping up and, y'all need to step up, it's so unattractive, but that's their process. That's where they are. And I've seen people keeping a group alive because there's no trusted servants. There's no GSR. You just have the one person being the treasurer, the secretary, the GSR. And then what they're going through with their bitterness is valid, because a clean day is a successful day. And when the pain is great enough, they let it go. And how many, raise your hand if you knew a group that was about to die, and the moment someone's like, I give up, let it die. And then boom, all these people step up. That's what we do. We come in at the last hour when all hope is gone, It's like, if this was a fellowship run with super functional, high-functioning type A people, I would never have stayed past my first meeting. This is a fellowship full of sick people, and some people are sicker than others. I've been come on now, I've been clean for 25 years, and I can't get here with a 2-week advance notice at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? That's just, I was talking on the way over here, I'm like, it's interesting, this program of recovery and service, because 50% of me feels bad that I love Wayno, and he's been texting me and emailing me knowing that I forget stuff. If anyone asks me to speak at H&I, I'm like, okay, at our group, I'm like, great, tell me now, call me the night before, seriously, you might not see me. And I'm okay with that, because I love myself today, and it doesn't co-sign my stuff like service doesn't matter. And like Lewis was talking about what it says in the 8th tradition, we're non-professional, but we need to stretch ourselves and respect and try to do the best we can. So 50% of me feels bad on the way here, and the other 50% is like, you know what, it's a miracle I do as good as I do. Let's just be honest with the hand I'm playing with. I always blame everything on the Freon, right? Anyway, but yeah, and then, you know, when I was rereading this stuff, that it talks about the spiritual principles associated with this, Tradition 7. It talks about gratitude, anonymity, dignity, sacrifice, responsibility, freedom, generosity, unity, faith, prudence, humility, autonomy, integrity, simplicity, and commitment. And it was kind of interesting for me rereading this. Oh, by the way, I'll blather on forever, so I hope someone's watching a clock when I get like to the 5-minute. Give me one of them.
Okay.
So yeah, or I'll hold you hostage here all day. But it was kind of interesting reading about, you know, what keeps NA intact despite all the different kinds of people and personalities and, you know, whatever. And like I said, it's like we want what we want when we want it. And a lot of times these traditions are the first things people want to throw out the window when it gets tough. And it does get frustrating. You know, me and another addict were just talking about stuff in Chicago's North City. You know, it's like H&I is awesome. If you've never done H&I, volunteer. It's the best. I love H&I. It's like just walking into a family reunion with people you didn't realize you met. The last one I did a week or two ago was so powerful. I just wanted to cry. You just had this one addict talking about just honest. A lot of people don't want to speak up or they want to sound good. This guy's like, you know, I hear what you're saying and I believe your experience, but I know I'm going to get high when I leave here. And he's like, and getting high ain't fun no more. All I do is cry and think about what I'm doing to my kid. And it's like, God, you know, and I'm like, you know, I love your honesty, and as honest as you are, and as hopeless as you feel, that's the kind of shit that's going to make the miracle happen. Speaking up on that, I mean, it reminds me one more time what an amazing fellowship this is. And H&I has been having a hard time funding. I've seen some stuff that, frankly, for an inpatient addict, I have a hard time seeing, you know, and I'm not blaming or shaming. It is what it is. But we have to be a simple organization. We got to follow these traditions even when they're frustrating and they take motions and votes and discussions and whatever. And you got to think about the long view because people took shortcuts before these traditions were here and went under, you know. And it's like they wanted to raise their own money. Then it's like, no, Ari will give you the money. They're like, okay. Then they ask Ari for money and Ari's like, we ain't got the money. And then it's like, but that's what I like about this book. It's like, all that's just part of our process. We're not professional. We're a self-run organization run by the craziest people on the planet. It is amazing. It is amazing we do as good as we do. You know, it's a miracle. And this is why it's just got to be kind of black and white and simple on some things. And people rage, but this book keeps talking to several of the traditions. There's a loving God. We got to trust in the process. We just got to stay in the process. And this is all about, you know, about the addict that still suffers. We do this so we can keep moving, you know, so we can keep growing in our recovery. We only keep what we have by giving it away. And reading these spiritual principles, it made me think about being self-supportive, not taking the softer, easier way, grabbing money for something that could bite us in the butt later, you know, and struggling and getting creative solutions that aren't, you know, that can take some time and discussion and votes and patience to get through, right? But then the way this book is written, how it takes you to your own personal recovery. It takes you to the group, how your home group is functioning in these traditions, right? It talks about other things instead of just the dry, obvious stuff, what's going on in the basket, right? And it reminded me when my first sponsor, terrifying woman, my God sent her right to me because I would have rolled over anyone else. Daughter of a Hell's Angel, big terrifying woman, you know, and I'm super grateful for her. But she used to say things, you know, I didn't know I was an addict when I came in these rooms. I detoxed in the rooms. I'm bipolar. I had to go to treatment clean when all the drugs left my system, get stabilized on lithium. It was a hell of a ride that first year. So a lot of what she said to me made no sense until way later. And looking back, it's like, wow, I'm glad she just kept beating that that stuff in me, and planting some seeds. And one thing she used to always say, Allison, with responsibility comes freedom. With responsibility comes freedom. With responsibility comes freedom. And just, doing this program, working this program and taking suggestions and faking it till I made it, what I realized is, if I'm responsible for my money, people can't pull strings on me. I have more autonomy. I can say just like the groups that we're not beholden to anybody, that goes on in my life too. If I'm not manipulating people or getting handouts and crying poor and dumping my responsibilities on other people, they can't tell me what to do. And the inner teenager in me loves that, so she backs up the growing adult in me on that one, because there's a big FU in it, and that always helps me with my motivations. It's kind of like, okay, I'll be responsible and show up to work, and then people can't pull my strings. So there's whatever it takes to get me to do the next right thing helps. And I definitely... And also this tradition talks about not going to the other extreme of that, because we're extreme. Sometimes we think everyone has to do everything for us, poor us, poor us. We're so sick and broken and victims. Or we become too rigid and ungrateful that when our higher power is trying to help us through another person, we say, no, I got to do it all myself. And, for a lot of us, that comes from a survival skill that we needed to get through life before we ever picked up our first drug, and that served us really well. But, like my favorite recovery speaker says, everything we had to do to survive our family of origins and our addictions are the things that block our growth and recovery. And we got to lay them down and replace them with new things. That's why this is a simple program, but it's fucking excuse me. We'll hide that one. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Yeah, come into this place where every time in your whole life that you can remember you trusted people, you got an emotional boot in the face, and trust us and, be vulnerable. It's like the saying that people laugh and you hear in meetings, recovery is easy, just change everything, But my experience with it, I used to see people talking in meetings like saying, oh, if I would have written down everything I wanted from NA when I came in, I would have cheated myself. I'm like, that makes no sense. You people have nothing to offer me. This program has nothing to offer me. What are you even talking about? But now that I'm on the other side of it, where I've actually reaped some of the self-esteem and self-acceptance I get by being autonomous and being responsible and paying my bills and not thinking the world owes me everything, and just what comes from that. It's not ego, it's based on actions. So when my disease between my ear tells me I'm broken, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm helpless, I'm hopeless, it's like, really? Well, I just did that. And it's like, oh, dang, hold that thought, I'll get back to you. And it has to, and that's why this is an action program, because our worst enemy, I heard a speaker say one time, if someone else ever said to me what I said to myself, I'd have to kill you. I wouldn't be able to bear hearing that from another mouth. And what we say to ourselves is devastating. And the action we do with with running our own recovery, running our own household, showing up to our jobs, our family, our marriage as an adult with someone that we can respect. That's how we get it. It's an inside job. It's an inside job, both and the parallels between how we run this as a fellowship with integrity and how we run our own personal program of recovery and lives is an inside job. And I feel like that's it, so I'm going to shut up. Thanks.
Preach on, Allison.